How to intermittent fast for quick weight loss. There's a reason some people over 60 try intermittent fasting for 2 weeks, lose almost nothing, feel weak, and decide the whole thing is a scam. And there's another reason other people close the kitchen a little earlier, change almost nothing else, and suddenly the scale starts moving in the right direction. The difference is not willpower, it's not age, it's not even metabolism the way most people think about it. It comes down to whether you understand the 7 rules that make intermittent fasting work safely, especially after 60, when your body stops forgiving sloppy mistakes. I'm Dr. Michael Joel, and before we go any further, I need you to hear this. Intermittent fasting can help with weight loss, but it can also backfire badly if you copy what worked for a 28-year-old on the internet. Please subscribe to this channel, tap the bell, and stay with me because today's lesson could change your health forever. If you do fasting the right way, it can simplify eating, shrink late-night snacking, and help your body burn stored energy. If you do it the wrong way, it can leave you tired, dizzy, hungry, and heavier than before. Let me start with Linda from Tampa, Florida, because her story explains why this can feel almost unfair. Linda was 67, retired from the Hillsborough County school system, and frustrated. She wasn't eating giant portions, she wasn't living on donuts, but every night, after dinner, there was a little something. Crackers at 8 tiurs, ice cream at 9 cuas, maybe half a sandwich while watching television at 10:30. None of it felt dramatic, but it added up. When Linda finally gave herself a firm kitchen closing time, her morning bloating dropped, her appetite calmed down, and the first 4 pounds came off faster than she'd seen in years. That is the first truth nobody explains clearly. Intermittent fasting is not magic. It is structured timing. It shortens the hours when you're eating, which often reduces mindless grazing, late-night calories, and constant insulin stimulation. In plain English, your body finally gets a break from processing food all day long. After enough hours without eating, it begins shifting away from burning the last snack you had and starts leaning more on stored energy. That is why some people see the scale move quickly in the beginning, not because fasting is a miracle, but because the body finally stops being fed every couple of hours. Now I need to slow this down before anyone gets the wrong idea. Quick weight loss does not mean reckless weight loss. The first few pounds can come off faster because you're eating less often, carrying less food in the digestive tract, and holding less water with stored carbohydrate. But lasting fat loss is still built on consistency, not punishment. If you expect fasting to erase years of evening snacking in 4 days, you'll either give up or push too hard. And the people over 60 who push too hard are the ones who end up shaky, discouraged, overeating later, or losing strength they cannot afford to lose. That brings me to Walter in Columbus, Ohio. Walter saw a video online saying the real benefits only begin after long fasts, so he jumped straight into an 18-hour schedule. He was 71, taking blood pressure medicine, and thought tougher meant better. By the 3rd morning, he was irritable, lightheaded, and so hungry by noon that he ate a cheeseburger, fries, and a huge soda from a drive-thru near his house. Then he blamed fasting for making him fail. But fasting did not fail Walter. Walter skipped the rule that matters first. Never start aggressively just because someone younger said it was easy. So let's begin with rule number 7, the safest place to start. If you are new to intermittent fasting, begin with a 12-hour fast and a 12-hour eating window. That may sound almost too simple, but that is exactly why it works. If you finish dinner at 7 p.m., you eat breakfast at 7 a.m. the next morning. Many people are already close to this without realizing it. The difference is that you make it deliberate. No handful of pretzels at 9:30, no cookies while cleaning the kitchen. No bowl of cereal before bed. A clean 12-hour overnight fast is often the bridge between chaos and control. Once that feels easy for 1 to 2 weeks, then you move to 13 hours, then 14. That's where many older adults begin seeing real momentum, because a 14-10 pattern is often much more sustainable than forcing 16-8 too early. If 16-8 eventually feels natural, fine, but you do not win a trophy for suffering. The best fasting plan is not the one that looks impressive on paper. It is the one you can follow without becoming obsessed, weak, or ravenous. If you feel like you're white-knuckling every morning, your plan is probably too aggressive. Sustainable fasting beats dramatic fasting every single time. Now let's talk about rule number 6, because this is where most weight loss gets quietly sabotaged. Your eating window should happen earlier in the day, not late at night. Carol in Phoenix, Arizona thought she was doing everything right. She skipped breakfast, had her first meal at noon, ate dinner at 7:30, and sometimes finished with popcorn at 8 because, technically, it was still inside her window. But she slept poorly, woke up puffy, and her progress stalled. The schedule looked disciplined. The biology underneath it wasn't. Your body handles food better earlier in the day than it does when you're eating close to bedtime. This matters more after 60 than many people realize. Late eating tends to collide with poorer sleep, reflux, nighttime bathroom trips, and that heavy feeling in the morning that makes people think they need to skip another meal to fix yesterday. If you want a practical target, try to end your last meal at least 3 hours before bed. That one change can be powerful. A window like 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. or 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. often works far better than noon to 8 p.m. for seniors who want better energy, calmer mornings, and less nighttime overeating. Rule number 5 sounds small, but it can make the difference between feeling steady and feeling miserable. During the fasting period, hydration matters, water matters, and knowing what truly keeps the fast clean matters. You can have water. You can usually have plain tea. You can usually have black coffee if your stomach tolerates it. What starts causing trouble is when coffee becomes coffee with sugar, flavored creamer, whipped topping, or 3 packets of sweetener that turn it into dessert in a mug. People say they're fasting, but they're sipping calories all morning and wondering why hunger, cravings, and weight loss stay messy. James in Tucson, Arizona learned this the hard way. He was 69, trying to copy his neighbor's fasting routine, but he also took a diuretic and already drank too little water. By late morning, he had a headache, dry mouth, and that worn-out feeling people describe as, "My body just doesn't like fasting." Except, it wasn't fasting alone. It was dehydration layered on top of medication. When he began the day with a full glass of water, kept fluids steady, and stopped pretending sweetened coffee counted as fasting, his mornings became dramatically easier. Sometimes what feels like hunger is thirst. Sometimes what feels like failure is just a preventable mistake. Now we come to rule number 4, and this one controls whether your fast ends in success or in a blood sugar roller coaster. The meal that breaks your fast needs to be calm, balanced, and protein-centered. If you open your eating window with orange juice, a muffin, pancakes, or a giant bowl of sugary cereal, you're setting yourself up for a spike, a crash, and cravings that follow you the rest of the day. After a fast, your body does not need a carnival. It needs stability. That means protein, fiber, and something satisfying enough that you don't spend the next 3 hours staring at snack cupboards. A simple example looks like this: 2 eggs with spinach and avocado, or plain Greek yogurt with berries and a handful of nuts, or cottage cheese with sliced tomatoes and whole grain toast, or grilled chicken over a salad with olive oil and beans. Nothing fancy, nothing trendy, just food that a real American household can actually prepare. The people who succeed with fasting after 60 are usually not the people chasing exotic hacks. They are the ones who make their first meal predictable, grounding, and filling. When the first meal is solid, the rest of the eating window stops feeling like a tug of war. Rule number 3 is the one that destroys quick weight loss more than almost anything else, and it is reward eating. Nancy from Cleveland, Ohio would fast until noon, then tell herself she had earned a big lunch. At night, she'd say the same thing again because she had been so good all day. That language is dangerous, because it turns fasting into a moral contest and food into a prize. If you use a shorter eating window as permission to overeat, you can erase the calorie difference that would have produced fat loss. Then you conclude fasting doesn't work, when in reality, the eating window simply got stuffed. I want you to remember this sentence because it will save you months of frustration. Fasting helps most when it quietly lowers total intake without making you feel deprived. It is supposed to simplify your day, not turn mealtime into a race against the clock. You do not need to get it all in before the window closes. You do not need giant portions because breakfast was skipped, and you do not need dessert just because the clock says you're technically allowed. The body responds better to 2 calm meals than to 1 calm meal and 1 celebration meal. Quiet consistency is what moves the scale. Now we're getting close to the rules that matter most for people over 60, and I need your full attention here. Weight loss at this stage of life is not just about pounds. It is about what kind of tissue you lose. If the scale goes down but your legs get weaker, your balance gets worse, and your energy drops, that is not a win. That is a trade you should never make. Older adults already face a higher risk of losing muscle with age. So if you fast without protecting protein intake and some form of resistance work, you can become smaller and frailer at the same time. George from Dallas, Texas found that out in a way that scared him. He was 73, thrilled that the scale dropped 8 pounds in a month. But then he noticed something else. Standing up from his recliner felt harder. Carrying groceries from the car felt heavier. His afternoon walks got shorter. He had lost weight, but he had also stopped eating enough protein and stopped doing the simple dumbbell routine his daughter had set up for him. Once he corrected that, the scale slowed down slightly, but his body changed for the better. His waist kept shrinking, and his strength stopped disappearing. That is why rule number 2 is this. While you fast, you must protect muscle like it's money in the bank. Aim for solid protein in your meals. Keep moving. Use your muscles so your body gets the message that they are still needed. That does not mean you need a gym membership in Manhattan or some punishing boot camp in Los Angeles. It can be chair squats in your living room, wall push-ups in your kitchen, resistance bands beside your bed, and a brisk walk around the block after your meal. Fat loss is helpful. Fat loss plus muscle protection is life-changing. There is another reason this matters. Exercise, especially light strength training and walking, makes fasting easier. It improves blood sugar control, helps preserve muscle, and reduces that sluggish feeling some people blame on meal timing alone. You do not need to exercise in the fasting window if that makes you feel lousy. Many older adults feel better walking after the first meal or doing resistance work in the afternoon. The timing is less important than the habit. What matters is telling the body, keep the muscle, burn the excess. Without that signal, the scale can fool you into celebrating progress that your joints and balance are not celebrating. Now, let's move to a rule that can be non-negotiable depending on your health history. If you take medication that affects blood sugar, blood pressure, fluid balance, or stomach comfort, you must not slide into fasting casually. Marilyn in St. Louis, Missouri was trying to lose belly fat before her granddaughter's wedding. She skipped breakfast, stayed on her usual diabetes routine, and by 10:30 a.m. she was sweaty, shaky, and frightened. That is not discipline. That is a warning sign. Medications that were safe with 3 meals may not behave the same way when meal timing changes. And some pills are meant to be taken with food for a reason. So if you use insulin, sulfonylureas, certain blood pressure medicines, diuretics, or any medication that upsets your stomach without food, talk to your doctor before you start. If you are already thin, frail, prone to falls, dealing with kidney disease, recovering from illness, or you've ever struggled with disordered eating, fasting may need modification or may not be the right tool for you at all. I say this because I want your weight loss to improve your life, not complicate it. A smarter plan with supervision beats a fashionable plan that ignores how your body and prescriptions actually work. Let me tell you something else that surprises many people. Sleep and stress can make fasting feel either easy or impossible. If you slept 4 hours, argued with family, watched cable news until midnight, and woke up already exhausted, that is not the morning to prove how tough you are. Poor sleep raises hunger, increases cravings for refined carbohydrates, and makes self-control feel much harder than it should. Then people blame the fasting schedule when the real sabotage happened the night before. Your hormones don't care what the internet promised. A worn-out body will push hard for quick energy, and that usually means sugar and starch. That doesn't mean you quit every time life gets messy. It means you stay flexible enough to act intelligently. On a rough day, maybe you use a 12-hour fast instead of 14. Maybe you eat a balanced breakfast and start fresh tomorrow. Maybe you avoid weighing yourself after a terrible night because the scale is likely to be distorted anyway. This is especially important for seniors because recovery capacity changes with age. The winner is not the person who never bends. The winner is the person who can keep the pattern going for months without feeling trapped, punished, or emotionally exhausted by food rules. Now I want to show you how to tell whether fasting is helping you even before dramatic scale changes appear. Watch your waistline. Watch your evening cravings. Watch whether your rings feel looser and whether getting out of bed feels lighter in the morning. Watch whether you stop prowling the kitchen at night. Those are early signs that the schedule is doing what it should do. Many people quit because they are staring only at the scale, which can bounce from sodium, bowel habits, poor sleep, and fluid shifts. But if your hunger is calmer and your waistband is easier, the plan may already be working. Robert in Des Moines, Iowa, almost gave up on week 2 because his scale hardly moved for 5 days. But his wife noticed his face looked leaner and his recliner side table was no longer covered with nighttime snack wrappers. That was the real progress. He had stopped eating after dinner, started walking after lunch, and was breaking his fast with eggs instead of pastries from the gas station on the corner. By week 4, the scale finally caught up. That's how this often goes. The body gets quieter before it gets visibly smaller. If you only trust instant proof, you may walk away just as the plan is starting to work. I also want to normalize something that frightens people during the first couple of weeks. Mild hunger at the old mealtime is normal. Feeling a little grouchy while your routine changes is normal. Thinking about food at the exact hour you used to snack is normal. Your body is partly adjusting and partly remembering habit. That does not mean something is wrong. What is not normal is severe dizziness, confusion, faintness, chest pain, persistent nausea, or symptoms of low blood sugar. Those are stop signs. Mild discomfort can be adaptation. Dangerous symptoms are not adaptation. Learn the difference and you won't panic over the wrong thing. Now we've arrived at the most important rule of all, and if you remember only one thing from this entire video, remember this. The biggest mistake in intermittent fasting after 60 is believing that longer fasting always means faster fat loss. That idea has wrecked more progress than almost anything else I've seen. It pushes people into 18-hour fasts, 20-hour fasts, 1 meal a day routines, and marathon fasting windows they are not prepared for. Then they get weak, lose muscle, binge later, or abandon the plan completely. The body does not hand out extra rewards because you suffered more. Smarter beats longer. Every time. Eleanor in Sarasota, Florida became convinced that 1 meal a day was the advanced version, so she forced herself into it. On paper, it looked impressive. In real life, she was cold, tired, obsessed with dinner, and barely eating enough protein to support her body. After 3 weeks, the scale was down. But so was her stamina. She had less energy to play with her grandkids, less patience, and less strength climbing the stairs in her condo building. We moved her to a gentler plan, a 14-hour fast, 2 solid meals, protein at both, and simple strength work 3 times a week. She lost fat more slowly, but she finally felt like herself again. That is the gold standard for quick but safe progress after 60. Not extreme fasting, not punishment, not trying to imitate an influencer half your age. You want an eating window that reduces unnecessary calories, keeps your body calm, preserves strength, and fits your real life in America. If you live in Ohio and like breakfast with your spouse, build the plan around that. If you live in Arizona and feel better eating earlier because of reflux at night, use that. The right fasting plan is personal, practical, and repeatable. If it works only on your most disciplined day, it's not really a plan. So here is the simple blueprint I want you to picture. Dinner at 6:30 or 7 p.m., kitchen closed afterward. Water, plain tea, or black coffee only. First meal the next morning at 8:30 or 9 if you're doing a 14-hour fast. Break that fast with protein and fiber. Have a second balanced meal in the afternoon. Finish by early evening. Walk after one of those meals. 2 or 3 times a week, do some form of resistance work. That's it. No punishment, no chaos, no cheat day drama. Just a clean rhythm your body can trust. For many seniors, that rhythm is where the real magic begins. If you want a sample day, here's one. Susan in Nashville might finish dinner at 6:30 p.m. She wakes up, drinks water, has black coffee, does a short walk, and eats her first meal at 8:30 a.m. Eggs, berries, and plain yogurt. Around 2:30 p.m. she has grilled salmon, vegetables, and a small baked potato. By 6 p.m. she's done eating. No nighttime grazing, no cereal before bed, no, I was good, so I deserve a treat story. That kind of day is not glamorous, but it is incredibly powerful. It gives your body long, quiet hours without food and enough nourishment when you do eat. And if you're wondering how fast results can come, here is the honest answer. Some people notice less bloating in days. Some see the scale shift in the first week, especially if late-night eating was the main problem. Others take 2 to 4 weeks before the body settles into the pattern. That's still normal. What you should not do is quit on day 4 because the mirror didn't transform. Look for better control, fewer cravings, a flatter morning stomach, and a belt notch that starts to matter. Fast weight loss gets attention. Steady fat loss with good energy is what actually changes a life. Before we finish, I need to draw one clear line in the sand. Intermittent fasting is a tool, not a religion. If it makes you feel sharper, calmer, and more in control, good. If it makes you miserable, weak, or medically unstable, then the schedule needs adjusting, or the tool may not fit you. There is no shame in that. Your body's job is not to obey trends. Your body's job is to keep you alive, mobile, independent, and strong enough to enjoy the years you've worked for. A plan that helps the scale but harms your stability is not a health plan. It's a trap. So let's bring this all together. Start with 12 hours. Move gradually to 14 if it feels good. Use an earlier eating window. Hydrate. Keep the fasting period clean. Break the fast with real food. Do not binge during the eating window. Protect muscle with protein and strength work. And never assume longer is automatically better. Follow those 7 rules, and intermittent fasting stops being confusing. It becomes simple. It becomes sustainable. And for many people over 60, it becomes the first weight loss approach in years that finally feels peaceful instead of exhausting. That peace is part of why it works. If this helped you, share it with someone who keeps saying, "I've tried everything and nothing works anymore." They may not need a harder diet. They may just need a smarter rhythm. And if you want more guidance that protects your health while actually helping you make progress, subscribe and stay with this channel. I make these videos because too many seniors are getting advice built for younger bodies, faster metabolisms, and very different lives. You deserve better than that. You deserve a plan that respects your age, your medications, your muscle, your energy, and your future. I'll see you in the next video. Research basis used to craft the script. This section is not part of the narration. Johns Hopkins Medicine provided the core explanation of intermittent fasting schedules. Metabolic switching. The idea that water, black coffee, tea are generally used during fasting windows. The note that adaptation may take 2 to 4 weeks. And the caution that very long fasts are not necessarily better or safer. Source: Mayo Clinic supported the balanced medical framing, possible short-term improvements in weight, blood sugar, blood pressure, and inflammation, while also emphasizing that intermittent fasting can cause fatigue, dizziness, headaches, mood swings, and is not right for everyone. Source: Harvard Health was especially useful for the older adult angle, including warnings about people who are already marginal in body weight, those who need medications with food, and people taking heart or blood pressure medications who may be at risk for electrolyte imbalances while fasting. Source: UCLA Health supported several practical points used in the script. Keeping the eating window earlier in the day, using water and zero-calorie drinks during fasting, avoiding very long fasts, staying active to preserve muscle, and focusing on healthy meal quality rather than assuming timing alone fixes everything. Source: NIH's report on time-restricted eating in adults with metabolic syndrome supported the conservative claim that benefits can be modest but meaningful, including about 3% to 4% reductions in weight, BMI, and trunk fat over 3 months with an 8 to 10 hour eating window, while also noting the need for longer-term studies. Source: A relevant YouTube expert source, Dr. Mike's Diet Review, reinforced the balanced tone used here. Intermittent fasting can help some people, but the evidence is mixed across methods. Long-term outcomes remain uncertain, side effects can occur, and rigid dogmatic fasting is often less helpful than a practical, sustainable approach. Source: